Welcome to Lights in the City. I'm your host, Raya Wooten, and we are here at the Legacy Awards hosted by the Women's Foundation here in Memphis. Tonight, we're going to get some great interviews with some of the honorees for the night. Stay tuned and keep watching. I'm your host, Raya Wooten, and I am here with Pat Morgan, the winner of the Cattle Award tonight here at the Legends Awards. So how do you feel winning that award, knowing all of the work that you've done in your background for the homeless and everything that you do?
Overwhelmed, because when you look at the definition of catalyst, we just make things happen. We get other people to do most of the work, but we lead, by example too. So I've emailed a zillion of my friends and I said, I want you to be here to share this award with me, because I couldn't have done any of this without the people who are actually involved, and I was too and still am, on the one-on-one helping homeless people get the services and the treatment and the housing they need. But I've really been pretty much overwhelmed all day.
And I want to touch just a little on the making things happen and taking. It seems like it says that it takes more than one person. So with the making things happen, how do we redirect or learn to handle people who are homeless? How do we do that here in our community?
Just remember that there's a person under there. It's so easy to find out because you can just sit down with them for a few minutes and say, what happened? Why are you out here? And most of them will tell you, unless they're so psychotic, that they think the CIA is going to get them for doing it. But most of the folks, there's a person under there. They're not that different. And that's the whole point that I try to make all the time. They're just human beings who most of the time didn't have much of a chance. I will say with the ones that I work with, primarily is the individuals on the street, in and out on the street, almost all of them have alcohol, drug, or mental health issues. But that doesn't mean they can't sit down and have a conversation with you. The normal population is pretty far in that corner these days as well. But there's just a person under there. Just find out what their name is. Just sit down and talk to them like you talk to anybody. And you'd be amazed at how easy it is.
And here in Memphis, we have a little bit of a panhandling problem. There are some people who stand in the same places and they go and they do panhandle. How do we, or what do you suggest that we do, other than giving homeless people or panhandlers money? What do you suggest that we do for them?
For starters, most of them aren't homeless. Okay, most of them are not homeless. They're just hustling. I think a lot of them have found out they can make more money like that than they can working for $7.25 an hour. But what I learned to do when I went to Washington, here in town, I knew every program out there. Nobody could con me. I knew all the system, everybody in the system. But when I went to Washington, number one, didn't have much money because I was gone back to college and I was temping and just trying to find a way to barrel in and do what I wanted to do in Washington on policy. But I would pass people and I didn't know where the resources were and I didn't have any extra money. And what I found myself doing was just looking at them and saying, I wish I could. And it works. It works every time. I wish I could. It covers a lot of territory. I wish I could give you what you're asking for. I wish you would use it for what you say you're going to do. I wish you weren't out here where you feel like you have to do that. I wish I didn't feel guilty because I'm not giving it to you. It covers a lot of territory. Just acknowledge somebody as a human being and say, I wish I could. But I don't give cash on the street. I don't. Okay? Now, if I'm trying to engage someone, I may buy them something or slip them something, that nobody else knows about. But that's when I'm trying to gain their trust. And that's usually the ones who don't ask. If the person's just sitting there and looks so depressed and hungry, I'm going to help them. And I don't ever turn anybody down when they ask for food. Now, if I ask for money for food and I offer them a hot dog and they say no, they want the KFC, then that's it. They're not very hungry. But I always try to help with food if somebody's hungry. I don't ever want to turn anybody away for that.
Well, we are so happy and thankful for all of the work that you do here in Memphis, but we also know that you have a book that you have out. So tell me a little bit about your book and what people can expect who have not read the book yet.
It's very different. In fact, it's gotten 5 National Book Awards in 4 different categories. So that makes it different. It's really about the homeless people here in Memphis that I worked with when I was directing the street ministry out of the basement of Calvary Church. And so I wrote about them, particularly about my favorite one, whose name was Alapici, and how they broke my heart. You know, they stole my heart and then they broke it. And I got so frustrated with the lack of resources, I went back to college and then went to Washington, worked on Bill Clinton's campaign, interned in Al Gore's office, and then worked on the presidential transition, and then went directly in as a presidential appointee to the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, which is the president's domestic cabinet, and where Andrew Cuomo was at HUD, and revolutionized the way we approach homelessness in America. So then I learned so much, then I came back to Memphis and was able to put that into play. But my book covers all all the stuff about me going back to college and working on the campaign. But the vast majority of it is about the homeless people who profoundly changed my life. I lived out my dreams because of them, and they never got to live theirs out. And some of them were so sick they never even had any dreams. So that's what it's about.
And would you say that you kind of take on their story as your own, or make it personalized to your own life?
Oh, yes. What they taught me about myself, because when I was dealing with them and working with them and talking with them and trying to help them sort out what had happened in their lives, I was also sorting out what happened in my life. And so my personal story's in there too. That makes me, people would say, why are you so obsessed with helping homeless people? And I'd say, oh, I don't know, it's just an overdeveloped maternal instinct or something. But really what it was, it's about losses. Homelessness is about losses. And I've had my share of losses, and housing's just the last thing people lose before they become homeless. They've already lost health, mental health, family, friends, clothing, furniture, jobs, money. They've lost pretty much everything when they hit the streets. And the loss of housing is just the last thing. But my losses started early, when I was 4 or 5 and my mother left and never came back. And then she committed suicide the year I graduated from high school. And a year to the day later, my father was a deputy sheriff and he was shot and killed in the line of duty. So I was out there on my own at 18. And so I understand that feeling of loss and what am I going to do and where am I going to go. Although I was never literally homeless, I stayed with my aunt and I stayed with my sister. You know, you never ask people if they have a place to live. You ask them if they have a place to stay because it's so temporary out there. But I knew, and then the other part is that my father was homeless when he was 14 during the Depression, and he had told me about sleeping on the pool table and not having money for food. So all that had just built up, I guess, in me, and just makes me really sympathetic, empathetic to homeless people. Plus, I grew up in Turrell, Arkansas, population 543 during segregation, and I had a debt to pay.
Well, where do we get your book? Where can they find it? All the details on that.
You can order it off my website, and I'll personalize it, okay, write you a little note on it. You can get it at the Episcopal Bookshop at Burke's Bookstore. It was at the booksellers until they closed, but you can also get it from Amazon.com.
All right, and the title?
The Concrete Killing Fields, One Woman's Battle to Break the Cycle of Homelessness.
Well, congratulations tonight on your award, and we thank you so much for your time. My name is Raya Wooten. Make sure you tune into Lights in the City on Sundays at 5 p.m. on Comcast Channel 31.
What's up, y'all? I'm Mariah.
I'm Lady.
And I'm Kaylin, and we are Glamour, and you're tuning in to Lights in the City.
I'm here with Barbara Nixon, and she is winning the Innovation Award tonight here at the Legacy Awards. So how are you feeling in this moment, knowing that your work has gone towards and being recognized now?
Well, I think my first reaction is one of complete surprise, but almost, I don't know if you're familiar with the imposter syndrome. It's like, do they know who I really am? Do they know that this work has really been carried out by hundreds of people and who have been around the table with me? So it's just overwhelming. It really and truly is, but I'm so honored that the work that we've done is being highlighted, because we feel like it's been very important. So yeah, it's exciting to me.
With you saying that this is work that people that you and your colleagues do, and you're just shocked that people know that this work is being done, what do you think distinguishes you from the work that other people like you do?
Well, I think what happened was that I was inspired by some science, some new science around neuroimaging of the brain, so that I understood more about what happened in the early years of life and how important that was on brain development. And I was inspired by a national expert. And I went there with another colleague from Memphis. And so when we came back and started talking about it, the community really took notice that we could do more on the front end, and then we would have less to do on the back end, and that we could really not only make a difference in what we saved in terms of what we're spending, but also we could save human lives. So I guess for me, it was hard because we had been in this mode of trying to help people's problems, and we still have to do that. And so to shift to say, let's try to prevent them was a huge challenge. But when we brought the news of the neuroscience and what we could do to really help healthy development, and when we talked about adverse childhood experiences and preventing them, our community got totally behind it. And we've been working, it's been 20 years, because it takes a long time to kind of move the system and change the focus. But we've had real good leadership and participation, and it's been hard work. It's a roller coaster kind of work. You feel like that you're doing a great job, and then the next thing you know, you feel like, can we really do this? So, your emotions are up and down. And there's a tendency of some people, I think, to say, we just really can't do this. It's too hard. Let's go back to the old way. But there's just been enough energy in the groups that have worked together, the task forces and the collaboratives, that people keep lifting up each other and saying, we can do this, we can do it. And so we're not there. With innovation, you're never there. There's never an end point. But we made a lot of progress, and I'm real proud. And Memphis has been able to be a leader in this, not only in Memphis and in other cities, but our state has really been working closely with us to do a lot of emphasis on early childhood and on adverse childhood experiences and the prevention of them. So Memphis is really, we've understood it in a way that maybe other communities don't. Memphis has really been a traumatized city. I mean, we had earthquakes. I mean, we have had earthquakes, but mainly that river floods, and we've had epidemics, and then the tragic assassination of Dr. King. We've had a lot of trauma. And so I think these kinds of messages and these kind of understandings really resonate with us at a really different level from communities who really haven't been in survival and innovation mode. I mean, if we hadn't had those resilient tendencies to say we can keep going, our community might, at one point we lost our charter. So Memphis could have really been a city that disappeared. So it's who we are, it's in our DNA. It's been great. So
I want to touch on the adverse childhood experience and that institute that you work on behalf. So what all do you do? What is your role in the adverse childhood experience?
Well, our role in the beginning was trying to find some money to do it, because you can't do any of this thing. And so we managed to get some funding from a donor. And we began with taking a look at who in the community might come together to support us. So we put together a task force. We also included the First Lady of Tennessee, Chrissy Haslam, on the task force. And she's been a real connector to the state level, at which we're going to have to go for policy and things like that. But we did, and so we decided that the study is a 10-question study that's decades old, and it asks about things that happen to you in childhood, everything from child sex abuse to being neglected to having an incarcerated parent. It's 10 questions of really profound things that can happen to children. And we didn't want to go out without some data, so we did a survey of Memphis, and we published it. And we had a meeting and, handed out the reports. But we also didn't want to go out without saying there's something we can do. And so we were building on the work of a national expert, Robin Carr Morse, who said, we need to have places that parents can go for support. Nobody knows what we're doing. We all do it in the best way we can because we love our children. But some of our parenting examples have not been good, so a lot of times patterns are repeated. So we need a place where people can go to get support and guidance. And so we opened up what now we have 4, doing 5, and we're close to 6 universal parenting places, we call them. And they're places that it is a place for anybody to go. We don't target anybody. It's about if you need help with your child rearing, if you just want reassurance. I mean, who gives mothers a pat on the back? We're not good at that. They're kind of struggling on their own. So it's a place to go. It's a positive place. We call them like Starbucks. everybody likes to go there. We have different opportunities for parents to be in groups, to be in stress reduction activities like a yoga or meditation or drumming or body movement, and we have things for bonding experience between parents and their babies up to about 3 years old. So it's a place, we like to think of it as just a community place where people want to go, and we're trying them in different locations to see where we're getting the most traction with people. So you're not mandated to go, there's no shame about going. As a matter of fact, you're proud to go because you really acknowledge that it's normal to need help. So the Universal Parenting Places have been a big force in terms of what we're doing. We've also worked with the state of Tennessee in terms of educating people across the state, because we know that if we're going to change any policies, if we're going to move any money to the front end, we're going to have to really work closely with our state legislators and our administrative and our departments in Nashville. And we've developed a good relationship. They've been very supportive.
So what would you advise someone who wants to work on behalf of child advocacy? Where would you advise them to start?
Well, I think most people say, what can I do? And I think what we need to do is start with ourselves. I mean, if most of us are parents and grandparents, one of the things you can do is go into a universal parenting place, find out what's going on, find out what would be helpful to you as well as people you know, and spread the word. It's very hard because in a city where we've been focused on solving problems, instead of asking what happened and what's going on and what can we do and building on strengths, people are reluctant to come in. They may think that you're going to take their children if you find out. We've done that in the past. So I think if our community, interested people who want to do something, will get familiar with it, begin to trust it, and use it themselves, but also encourage people they know who are struggling to go in and take part in what's going on. I think that's the biggest gift, because it's one thing for us to say, please come. It's another thing for somebody you know and trust to say, I went. It's really a good place to be, and I think that you could find some support there.
We are so happy for all of the work that you do on behalf of child advocacy, and congratulations again tonight on the award.
Okay, thank you very much.
If you are a regular person with a lot of swag, prove to us that you are the most stylish in the city by competing in the first annual Style Wars. Whether your style is classy and chic, urban, or risky and outside the box, we want to see you compete. The TV show The Style Center is giving regular people an opportunity to showcase their style. This competition is open to men and women ages 18 and up. The winner will receive a custom piece from local designer Immortal Inc. and a cash prize of $250. For details on how to enter, contact us, info@l3television.com. We want to see your style. This is Asha with the Style Center. Be sure to tune in every Wednesday at 10 p.m. on Comcast Channel 31.
We are back, and I am with Edith Kelly Green, and she is the recipient for the Philanthropy Award. So how are you feeling receiving that award here tonight?
Well, I'm quite excited. This is an award unlike any other award that I've received. It deals more with giving back to the community, which is something I've tried to do, to be of service to other people throughout my life. And to some extent, this is a validating item in my life to say somebody notices, yes, you are doing the right things, you are on the right track. So it's a very special award, and I'm quite excited about it.
Now, on pre-interview, we talked a little bit about philanthropy and your work in the philanthropic area, and you said something along the lines of people think that people with money can only do philanthropy. So how can we encourage others who may not have the funds to do what they think others are doing? How do you encourage them to get out and do work in the philanthropy area?
Well, I have a few perspectives on that. I grew up with my grandmother in Oxford, Mississippi. My grandmother worked as a maid at the University of Mississippi long before I was able to go to school there, which I eventually did, and I got my undergrad degree. But my grandmother made $15 a week, but she was always giving to other people, not money necessarily, because where she worked, they would give us their clothes that they didn't need anymore, and there was always somebody either in our family or in our community who needed clothes. So she would allocate those, but if it was money, she would give money too. So on $15 a week, she would be called, in my opinion, a philanthropist. So too often we think it's all about money and that only people with a lot of money can be philanthropists. Philanthropy is not tied just to money either. It's tied to your time, which gets to be one of the scarcest resources that any of us have. There are many people out there who would like to have access to our knowledge, our experiences, our connections perhaps to get them into the door for an interview. I consider that to be philanthropy too. So my expectation is that everybody is a philanthropist. You just need to figure out what assets you have. Don't worry about whether you've got a fat checkbook or not, because you don't have to give like everybody else gives, but figure out what assets you have, and then how can you apply those assets to our community to help other people, to be of service to other people.
Do you think that your upbringing and background is what drives your work in philanthropy?
Certainly that's a part of it, because I started with nothing, and a lot of other people made a difference in my life. A lot of other people gave me their time, not necessarily money, but they created opportunities for me to get an education, which I think is a cornerstone for anybody who's going to be successful in their lifetime. So yes, I saw what other people did for me, and I have tried to give back to try and make a difference in other people's lives by giving them some of the same things that are, but tied specifically to the needs that they've identified or needs that I think are important to them.
And you are on the founding board for the Women's Foundation. So what does your work in the foundation consist of?
Well, I was on the founding board, which has been a while back. I was treasurer, helped to get the board launched under Murdy Buckman and others. And the vision of the Women's Foundation, certainly women makes a point. And even aside from that, I was the founding chairman of the Ole Miss Women's Council for Philanthropy. So you can see that to some extent I focus on women and creating opportunities for women. Being a woman, being an African American woman, I am certainly in tune with the obstacles that we have before us and the hills that we have to climb to get where we are. And it's not all necessarily about needing money or needing this, but it's creating opportunities and knowing people who can create those opportunities for you. So I saw that in the Women's Foundation. I thought that was very important. In order for our community to be whole, women and children also have to be whole. And why the Women's Foundation does focus on that, and that's an important piece to focus on, because we all rise together. Women have to have their rights, have to be have the same opportunities that everybody else has, and I believe in that. I am a product of that, and I want to help other women to achieve also.
I don't know if you viewers out there caught this, but Ole Miss alums tend to have a way of throwing their self out there. You always have to shout yourself out in a way. So what work do you still do with Ole Miss? Because I know that you are an alum. So how involved are you with them?
Well, I am still on the board of the Ole Miss Women's Council. It was founded in 2000. As I said, I'm the founding chairperson. I have endowed 2 scholarships, one in honor of my grandmother, Christine Mitchell Hickenbottom, who did live to see me graduate from the university, even though she worked as a maid there at a time when African Americans were not even allowed to be there. I've also endowed one in honor of my mother-in-law, Marion Kelly Gordon, who was a cook on the campus at one of the fraternity houses. And then in my estate planning, I have set up 2 other scholarships. One for my daughter, Dr. Jana Kelly, who graduated from Ole Miss, and then one in my name. 2 of the scholarships are for African American women, preferably in the School of Accountancy, which is my undergrad degree. One is in biology, which was my daughter's undergrad degree, and the other one is a general scholarship. And they focus on women in Mississippi. Being a Mississippian, I certainly also know the obstacles that are there and how critical having a great education is to people there, to African American women for sure. So I'm hopeful that that will make a difference. And it is a 4-year scholarship, tuition, room, and board. I think many people have got the scholarships from the Women's Council, and we have over 36 scholarships now, I think, something like that. And many of those students have said, were it not for this scholarship, I would not have been able to go to school at Ole Miss or perhaps any place.
And as of now, where is your end goal for your work in philanthropy?
I don't know that there is ever an end goal for philanthropy. I just believe that no community, no city, no state, no country will ever be any better than this least educated person. So I'm very focused on educating people who look like me. It is one of the great equalizers. Certainly it can be used as a reason not to give you a job and not to deny you something. And it's an easy reason. Either you have a degree or you don't have a degree. It's not debatable. So always have that degree, have that minimum qualification, because nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can take education away from you. And so that is just critically important. I've seen it in my work life so many times where people didn't have the degree or didn't have the prerequisites, and that was the easy. So you could even get in the door to get an interview to say, hey, I don't have a degree, but I can do this, this, and that. So I believe it. It has just made such a difference in my life and allowing me to be where I am now, to be a CPA. I've been a CPA. When I graduated from high school, I didn't know how to spell CPA. I didn't know what that was. But I was at the right place at the right time. I had a grandmother who encouraged me to go to school and be educated. She only had a 6th grade education, but she knew the value of education. And being kind of the person I was, if I had to study, I didn't have to work in the garden. I didn't have to do manual labor around the house. So I studied a lot, and I didn't have to work a lot around the house. And I determined I probably always wanted to not do manual labor and not have to work in the garden and that kind of stuff based on that. But I don't know that that'll ever be an end goal. But I just, in addition to education and maybe financial support that I can give, just trying to be available to consult with people, to talk to them about the experiences I've had, so that they don't make the same mistakes, that they can get to their goals a little bit more directly. I've invested time and money in some ideas that people have had, some that work and some that don't work, but trying to just help motivate people to do something, to follow their dreams, to be able to pay their own taxes so they don't have to live off of our taxes, but to be independent people. And also to kind of provide a vision for people. I'm a franchisee for Lenny Subs, and some of the times the people that we hire as employees, they have such a limited scope of what's around them. They don't believe that they can be a manager, that they can own a store, that they can own several stores. And coming from the background that I'm coming from, when I talk to people, I'm talking about what I've experienced. I'm not saying you can do this. I'm saying you can do this because I did this, and I did this at a time where it was even more difficult and even less opportunities to do it. So we circle back to your question about philanthropy expanding beyond just finances. It is empathy for people and trying to motivate people, giving them that motivation. It's giving in all different kinds of ways based on what a particular person needs.
And I want to say that you are giving very much motivation, and thankfully you are a clear example of the fact that you can be professional and still African American in America without giving away your roots. So thank you so much for your time. And can we end on a hottie toddy?
Absolutely, hottie toddy.
Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thanks so much.